Hello, my name's Gavin. This is Genre Books. March, Mystery Madness. Spring into Adventure. Horror Mayhem. June on the Range. Jane Austen July. Rocket Summer, Gub August. Framed in September. Shaketember. Victober. And Occult Detective October. That is all of the events, I think all of the events since March. It's been a busy 8 months. I'm making the decision, at least for November, possibly December as well, to try not to join any events. I'll probably fail, but I will certainly try not to make an effort. However, I've still got a lot of stuff I want to read. I've still got my own projects which have been suffering with doing booktube events that I want to catch up on. And a big project I have planned for next year, which I'm beginning to make a start on. So let's see what I'm going through, or plan to go through, in November. As usual, I've bitten off more than I can chew, but I'll try. First book, I'm reading it in ebook format. I'm already about 100 pages into it, thereabouts. Olga Romanoff by George Griffith, or George Chetwynd Griffith, or George Chetwynd Griffith Jones. It depends. This is a sequel to The Angel of the Revolution, which was the last thing I read in October for Victober. I went straight into the sequel. I think I want to do a video about George Griffith at some point during this month. The next book is to do with that large project I have for next year. It won't start being shown on the channel until April, but I'm trying to get the groundwork in now because the reading demands are going to be high and absolutely pleasurable. I'm starting here with a buddy read with Pat from Book Chat with Pat of The Land of Mist, one of the Professor Challenger books and stories from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I think it was last year with Roy Reads Anything's Giant April that I read The Lost World. I think possibly with November this year, one of the many events I'm not participating in. Some more people might read The Lost World. This is one of the sequels to that book, and comes in this lovely collected edition. Group reads don't count as booktube events. That's what I'm telling myself, because I'm in a group read this month. I've wanted to read this for quite some time, so great to have a reason to do so. Sir Walter Scott, Ivanhoe. So a bunch of us are going to be reading this over the course of the month. About 11 chapters a week I think we are reading. This video I think comes out the 2nd of November. Still time to join. If you fancy it, let me know. Contact details in the description below. The next two titles are both in ebook, so I have nothing to show you. The first is helping me get back into my event I've sadly neglected over the last couple of months, 50 Zanes of Grey, where I read 50 novels, at least 50 novels, by the master of the Western, Zane Grey, and I'll be reading one of his all-time classics, which is Riders of the Purple Sage. Then I am reading the next chunk of what I'm now calling BookTube's biggest buddy read, with the book I'm reading with James at Quaint and Curious Volumes. We are reading The 1001 Nights. We're about something like 400 nights into this now. We have a section to read. Now, I've had to move from the version I was reading, the translation I was reading, to the Richard Francis Burton translation, which is no hardship. But yes, the nights all of a sudden started not to tally. We're reading different editions. He's reading the much more modern Penguin edition. I'm looking at something from the 19th century. Then 2 novels by Joe Haldeman. Now, I've only read one Joe Haldeman book before, and it wasn't his most famous one. So this is his most famous one. I'm going to read this first, The Forever War. And I'm reading that first because I am then on another buddy read with Gareth at Books, Songs and Other Magic, again for the project I'm looking at next year. This one much later in that project, The Accidental Time Machine, again obviously Joe Haldeman. Another project I have neglected probably since July maybe, so I'll get back on this horse, although it's not Western related, it's pulp related. Planet Stories, Volume 1, Issue number 11. And to continue in that vein of pulp science fiction, I will be, after that, continuing with the Shaver Mystery Compendium, Volume 2. Now, I got about 60 pages into this, one of the stories in this book, during October, but Victorian and occult matters took precedence. So getting back onto the horse here as well. From the Murderous Ink Press, I have been neglecting, and I will read Crimecopia. I'll definitely be reading this latest edition of Crimecopia, and I have a few back editions I may be dipping into as well to hopefully do a review video of just a general feel for what looks like a fantastic series. Next on the list is one of the science fiction classics, and another which I have not yet read. So time to put that right. Olaf Stapledon and Last and First Men. Now, I know I said I wasn't participating in any BookTube events, and I might still be doing that because I'm not sure that Non-Fiction November is running. I've not heard anything. I possibly purposefully have not been looking for it. I'll be reading some non-fiction regardless. One is science fiction related, The Gernsback Days, Mike Ashley and Robert A.W. Lowndes. And then some non-fiction just because I fancy it. Spice by Roger Crowley, the 16th century contest that shaped the modern world. So, maritime adventure, the beginnings of global supply chains. I read his book City of Fortune about Venice a few years ago now. Absolutely captured my imagination, so I'm expecting good things from this. And then back to the Hugo Gernsback, and I've meant to read this earlier in the year, so I am picking some books up in the last 2 months of this year that I didn't get to and had planned to. Ralph 124C4 1+. I've been told this means, because it's a story of the future, Ralph 124C for all. But I think he's trying to be a bit too clever there. We're now getting into I don't think I'll have time to read this part of the list, but the next one is The Book After. Riders of the Purple Sage, or not written after, but this is a sequel, The Rainbow Trail. Also another book that I very briefly started. I only got about 30 pages in, and something happened and I ended up not being able to read it. Once I get back into it, Claremont by Regina Maria Roche. This is one of the Jane Austen horrid novels. And finally, and one I really don't think I'm going to get to, or I may just be able to start it in November, Dan Simmons' Hyperion. But I really do want to read this. I've been meaning to for at least 6 months now. So it's been sat at the top of my TBR and keeps getting passed over for various reasons. Time to grasp the nettle. So that is a pretty full plate. Again, as usual, over ambitious. But I think every time I do that, it does actually make me read more books than I otherwise would do. So I'm going to continue to start each month with boundless optimism and then have that meet crushing reality. Until next time, bye.